Every video and episode of the It's Cavalier podcast is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoy the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos, podcasts, member shoutouts, and more. And as always, thank you for watching. So I asked an interesting question on social media just a couple of minutes ago, just to kind of gauge where everybody is at. And that's in the event that Darius Garland misses time at the start of the season, which seems very likely, by the way, based upon the reporting of the injury timeline and surgery timeline, rather. Who do we believe starts alongside Donovan Mitchell and others? And I already got 41 responses to it. Most of them are indicating that they would like to see Lonzo Ball slide into that starting role, but there are a number of options to choose from. So I thought, you know what? Let's have a little bit of fun here and go through some of the starting lineups that Kenny Atkinson could throw out there, because no doubt, like outside of Lonzo Ball, there are a lot of different lineup configurations and starting lineups, and really just the entire rotation that Kenny can go to should he choose to. But I'm going to throw those up here in just a moment. But just wanted to let you guys know that there will probably be a shift to the schedule of said podcast. And we got a special guest on Saturday. So tomorrow, you guys, there'll probably be a big name coming by the show. I can't wait to hit the record button with this guest on Saturday, but make sure you guys tune in. But without further ado, let's go through some of these lineups here, because it's not just Lonzo. All right. Number one, this is just me playing around with some of the names here. So keep in mind, a disclaimer. Let me put this out there right now. I want Nae'Qwan Tomlin to be a part of the Cavaliers rotation. You will not find him on any of these lists, guys, because I'm trying to be realistic. And realistically, I do not feel that Kenny Atkinson is going to put Nae'Qwan Tomlin in the rotation to begin the season, especially if he remains on that two-way. He will probably get some game time action if he's not converted immediately. But I did not put Nae'Qwan Tomlin in any of these because I just don't think that Kenny Atkinson is probably likely to start him in the rotation anytime soon. But that could change. I'm hoping that it does. Also, Jalen Tyson, not going to be in many of these just because I don't know how big or small a role he will have to begin the season. With Darius Garland being out, there are a couple of potential opportunities for him to steal in terms of being a rotation regular, but I really can't wait to get through these. But without further ado, number one, starters: Donovan Mitchell, Sam Merrill, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen. And one thing is consistent across the board here. There will be three names that you will see that are in all of these: Donovan Mitchell, for obvious reasons, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. Barring some unforeseen moving somebody like Jarrett Allen, those three are going to be in the starting lineup. That is not going to change across any of these. So you will see Donovan, Evan, and Jarrett. Beside those three, you see Sam Merrill and DeAndre Hunter here. And the bench, you have Craig Porter Jr., Lonzo Ball, Max Strus, Dean Wade, Larry Nance Jr. Now, again, this is not a given in terms of what this bench will look like. Who knows what type of configuration off the bench and which positionally and where positionally specific players will line up off the bench. So this is just a rough draft. It's not necessarily indicative of who will play what position and how many minutes these guys will get. But that is number one. This gives you some nice off-ball shooting from that of Sam Merrill, who we have seen become explosive in an off-ball role. And, you know, during the 2023-24 season, in which Darius Garland and Evan Mobley both missed hefty portions of the season, we've seen how effective Sam Merrill can be when he starts, when he comes off the bench, and you give him an opportunity to get a good level of minutes alongside Donovan, who we have seen be a quality facilitator and playmaker out there. Doesn't get it done the exact same way that Darius Garland does in terms of the way his passes and assists are created. But I certainly see the validity in starting him at the point and having Sam as that two guard out there playing an off ball role, and it does give you some size in that backcourt alongside Donovan, who many people still consider to be somewhat undersized. DeAndre Hunter, you already know the deal with him. I am a heavy believer that he should be starting, but that is not necessarily a given Kenny Atkinson's affinity for Max Strus and the fact that you may need to replace some of that bench scoring that Ty Jerome has left, right? So it is not a given that DeAndre Hunter starts either, but this is a good way that you could potentially go with this. Gives you some off-ball shooting, gives you a nice mixture of defense because Sam Merrill, in my opinion, is one of the more underrated defenders on this roster. He doesn't get enough respect. The problem with Sam oftentimes hasn't been that he is a terrible defender. It's that he is forced to play at the three. Kenny Atkinson loves to play Sam Merrill at some three. He seriously has, and we talked about his affinity for Max Strus in the starting lineup. He has a true affinity and relationship with Sam Merrill for good reason at times. I just think that he overplays him at the three. So if you can get Sam some real solid minutes at the two, and he's playing more two than three this year, I definitely think that he can be effective. So I can see the validity in this. Now the bench right here, Craig Porter Jr. and Lonzo Ball are the two of the most questionable players for different reasons in this bench or first five off the bench. And that is because for Craig, you still have not seen him man an everyday role for the entirety of the season. He did have his moments throughout his rookie season where he legitimately looked like he belonged. He had moments last year where he looked like he was a valuable contributor, but his production and minute totals were sporadic and varying depending upon the situations the Cavaliers found themselves in, whether or not they needed him for injury purposes or it was a blowout, something like that. So, Craig, there are still some question marks in regards to whether or not he can function as an everyday rotational player. I think he can, but he's going to have to answer those questions on the court. He does give you a high level of rebounding, even as undersized as he is at that one. He's not a terrible defender. I think that his decision making as a facilitator could probably improve, especially in terms of the pick and roll, which the Cavaliers opt to play heavy portion of their offensive sets in. And we'll see what that 3 point shot has going because Craig still does not strike me as a bona fide off ball shot maker. We have seen him work around with that step back J, which pretty efficient over the last couple of seasons with, but we haven't seen it happen day in and day out, game in and game out. So we'll have to see what he does there. Lonzo Ball, the biggest question mark of all with him is the health. Can Lonzo Ball stay healthy? Assuming that he can, I don't think there are really any questions in regard to his play. I think that the versatility that he affords you, the playmaking, the defense that you're picking up with Lonzo all in one package, I love it, man. The real biggest question mark in regards to him is going to be health. Can he stay upright? And Kenny Atkinson is going to have a challenge on his hands in managing his minutes and his role, which calls into question whether or not Lonzo should start. So let's dig into rotation number two. Lonzo Ball starting. Lonzo Ball alongside Donovan Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. Your bench remains Craig Porter Jr. Sam Merrill shifts to the bench. Max Strus, Dean Wade, Larry Nance Jr. So this is the one that many people are indicating they would like to see. And I definitely this is the one that I think people really answered the most when I threw that question out there. I understand why people might want to see this one because Lonzo, very, very good playmaker alongside Donovan Mitchell, just sounds like a great idea. And then Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, it sounds like a fun lineup. It truly does. Lonzo gives Donovan the ability to play off ball in ways that some others on the roster just wouldn't be able to. Lonzo Ball is a great kickstarter in terms of getting out in transition. I think I discussed this with somebody the other day. Lonzo is not really a drive and kick type of facilitator. He's much more much more get out and fast break and generate opportunities that way off of a rebound or when players are ahead. He is a brilliant passer in that regard, but I just don't expect a ton of drive and kick out of Lonzo. I had those numbers the other day. I'm going to try and bring them back up, but Lonzo is not really the quintessential drive and kick point guard or facilitator out there in the same vein as a Darius Garland or a Donovan Mitchell or even Max Strus for that matter. He is just, it's just not something that he really, really utilizes as much as you would hope that he did, especially with the types of shooters that are on this roster. But I would hope that that improves with this team, right? I think that Lonzo has an excellent opportunity on his hands to change up some of his play style. And here we go right here. Lonzo, in 35 appearances last season, drove the ball 84 times. That's it. That is not nearly as high as you'd probably like it to. He doled out 11 assists and turned the ball over 8 times with an assist percentage of 13.1% and a turnover percentage of 9.5%. So, not the same type of creator uh, that Darius Garland is, obviously, but he is still a valuable facilitator out there. He can function as an off-ball shooter if you're going to put the ball in Donovan's hands and ask Lonzo to be in one of the corners where he shot respectably well. Wasn't necessarily the most efficient season from the field overall for Lonzo, but he is a dependable enough shooter to make it work on high enough volume to inspire confidence. I'm going to throw out the percentages from last year because I do feel like Lonzo can be a better shot maker than he was. He doesn't really attack the basket. He's not really a drive and kick guy, but he can knock down that corner triple or the triple from above the break. So I'll be very interested to see what that looks like. And then you have, your bench right there with Craig probably in a better role for him as juxtaposed to starting where you can manage his minutes a little bit more. Sam Merrill playing two guard off the bench, Max Strus in the three, Dean Wade and Larry Nash Jr. rounding things out in your front court. That's not a bad rotation by any means. Let's get to number 3 here. Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen are your starters here. This right here, this is a questionable one because you're asking both Max and DeAndre to be in your starting lineup. So your bench could suffer from this because you're not having a bona fide true scorer off the bench here with DeAndre Hunter remaining in the starting lineup and you're having Max out there beside Donovan. The caveats, right? There are trade-offs with this one. Number one, I think the biggest one of all here is that you're adding true size into your starting five, right? You got Max, he was listed like 6'5, 6'6 on a good day, beside Donovan Mitchell, who's what, 6'2, 6'3. So this makes sense. And then DeAndre, he has a good amount of size out there himself alongside Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen in that starting five. So you don't really have anybody shorter than 6'3" or so in your starting five. From a defensive standpoint, this makes a hell of a lot of sense. And for all the flack that Max took for that final game against Indiana, I do believe that he is a better defender when asked to defend twos rather than threes. Can he hold his own against threes? Yeah, he's done that since he came to town. But I do believe that if you're asking him to defend twos more often than not, he can come through for you. And then Donovan, he's not a bad defender. That's where at the collegiate level, he was known for his defense. And he has played and been a better defender over the years. It started when he came over to Cleveland and the effort picked up once more under JB Bickerstaff. And I do think that's carried over in the first year or so with Kenny Atkinson. And I expect that to continue as the years go on. But for the rest of the lineup here, Craig, Lonzo, Sam, Dean, Larry Nance. And I think that's another thing that you're probably going to see be a consistent factor here is Dean Wade and Larry Nance Jr. rounding things out on that bench. But again, this is because I do not think that Nae'Qwan Tomlin will begin the year in the lineup, though I want him to. We'll just have to see how the whole Dean Wade situation plays out. But Merrill, he's still giving you that gravity as an off-ball shot maker, still giving you the underrated facilitator or playmaking out there as a secondary creator. He's still giving you a dependable enough amount of defense to justify the minutes that he will receive. But the question is, are they going to play him at the two? Are they going to play him at the three in a lineup like this? Or, with Lonzo's positional versatility. And fun fact about Lonzo Ball, he actually played a good amount of his minutes at the three last year. That would make a lot of sense to me if you're trying to, from a rotational standpoint, if you want to make sure that you're not forcing Sam to guard big threes out there, you could opt to give Lonzo Ball minutes at the three, where he played 25 minutes, 25% of his minutes at last year with Chicago. So Lonzo, due to his positional versatility, that would make a lot of sense. But this would be a fun one to me. Number 4 here, you have Craig Porter Jr., Donovan Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen as your starters. And this is where you really start to get crazy, because you're throwing Craig into the fire here a bit, because we already know he has big expectations on him. And there are a lot of question marks in regard to whether or not he can be an everyday player. I already mentioned that. But you're starting him alongside Donovan, Hunter, Mobley, and Allen. Now, what this does not do is address the size concern. For as big as Craig Porter Jr. can play out there, especially on the glass, Craig Porter Jr. is still just 6'2" at best, and 186, 190 pounds or so. That is asking a lot from a defensive standpoint. So this is probably not one that I would roll with, but it is definitely an option if they want to see what they have in Craig Porter Jr. Your bench here is Alonzo, Sam, Max, Dean, Larry, right? Lonzo, to my knowledge, completely healthy at this point in time. This is probably a good way to keep his minutes down, especially if you're trying to make sure that he's healthy and manageable throughout the rest of the season. Playing him as your true third guard off the bench, that would make a lot of sense. Sam Merrill, you're giving him a hefty amount of minutes at the two as opposed to the three, and then you got Max as your bench three here, and Dean and Larry rounding things out once more. I'd be very interested to see what this actually looks like on the court, because yeah, you're still undersized here in your backcourt for your starters, but you do have all that size in the front court with Hunter, Mobley, and Allen being 6'7" and above. Rotation number 5, you have Craig Porter Jr., Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus, Mobley, and Allen. With this, do you really the trade-offs here are size still, because you have Craig and Donovan still being undersized here, and Max, right? You're losing that size in the starting lineup with DeAndre Hunter, and you're featuring Max here as that tertiary guy who looks really, really good in an off-ball role beside Donovan and Darius and Jarrett and Evan. But what you're doing is you're moving that bench production, or that scoring production rather, to your bench, so that you're not necessarily missing a beat offensively with the loss of Ty Jerome. So you're picking that back up. And beside him, you have Lonzo Ball, quality playmaker, facilitator, defender, rebounder out there. Sam Merrill playing minutes at the two as an off-ball guy alongside those guys. That would be great. And again, DeAndre giving you that scoring production off the bench alongside Dean and Larry, who do not need the ball in their hands. This could be definitely an interesting one if Kenny is dead set on continuing to start Max Strus. Number 6, Lonzo Ball, Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen. This one right here could be fun because you have a good complement of both defense, offense, and size out there. Lonzo is definitely not a small guard. He has positional versatility. You can line him up 1 through 3. He is about 6'5", 6'6" out there on his best day. Donovan, again, 6'3", Max, 6'5", 6'6", and then Evan and Allen. Good amount of off-ball and on-ball shot making here. Good amount of connective tissues here in Donovan, Ball, and Strus. And with Evan becoming a better playmaker himself, I could definitely see this being one that Kenny rolls with, should he feel it necessary. And then to your bench here, Craig Porter Jr. in a more naturalized role for him, Sam Merrill again playing the two, DeAndre giving you that scoring output off the bench, and then Dean and Larry. This would make a lot of sense to me. Not necessarily set in stone, but if he is dead set on starting Max, this makes a lot of sense. Number 7, you have Donovan, Sam, Max, Mobley, and Allen. Not my favorite one, I gotta admit, because one, you're sliding Donovan over to the 1, you're playing Sam Merrill at the 2, which it does make sense because he can be a good off-ball shot maker. Max Strus for the same reasons, just on an elevated level with Sam, can give you a good amount of connective playmaking as a guy who can move the ball around there as well. And then Evan and Allen are what they are, especially on that defensive standpoint. You know what they're going to give you as true backline defenders. But this doesn't really this doesn't really scratch that itch in terms of additional shot creation that you really don't have that since you miss Darius Garland. You don't really have anybody else out there that has that scoring juice in the starting lineup out opposite Donovan and Evan. But it makes a lot of sense from a size standpoint and off ball shooting. Good compliments here. On that bench, you got Craig Porter Jr., Lonzo Ball, DeAndre Hunter, Dean Wade, Larry Nance, all there for reasons that have already been mentioned. Lonzo Ball, that would be the biggest question mark here for me. Like, what is his role going to be in a lineup like this? DeAndre Hunter, you know what he's there to do, is there to score the basketball for you, and then Dean and Nance are there to clean up on the boards and defensively and knock down any open shots they get out on the perimeter. Number 8, Donovan, Sam, Dean Wade, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen. This is probably where people are like scratching their heads, like, what the hell are you doing? This doesn't make any sense at all. The question is, how does Kenny Atkinson feel about Dean Wade, right? Because we've seen Dean Wade start a number of times. We have seen Dean Wade make a good number of starts over the last couple of seasons. Some of it has been successful, some of it has not. I think it really goes back to confidence with Dean Wade out there because we know he's a hell of a wing defender. That is his best quality. We know that he can knock down the three-point shot, but it hasn't necessarily been consistent, nor has it always been done with confidence. To me, I can understand why he may go to a lineup like this because Sam does give you that solid off-ball shot making on high volumes. Not a terrible defender, especially at the 2. Donovan, he's a quality facilitator and playmaker, scorer out there, not a bad defender himself. And then Evan and Allen clean things up. And you got size. You got true size here. Nobody is shorter than 6'3" out here, with Donovan Mitchell being that dude. Sam Merrill being, 6'4", 6'5". Dean is around 6'9", 6'10", and Evan and Allen are damn near 7 foot. So good amount of size, good amount of off-ball shot making, good amount of scoring, good amount of defense. This would make a lot of sense if you are Kenny Atkinson. Rotation number 9, you have Lonzo Ball, Don, Dean, Mobley, Allen. You would have to ask yourself, again, how confident are you in Dean Wade being able to contribute in that starting lineup if you are Kenny Atkinson? On paper, he can do it. It's just all mental for Dean Wade. So this, again, this is the biggest question mark here. You have this one right here, your bench: Craig Porter Jr., Sam Merrill, Max Strus, DeAndre Hunter, and Larry Nance Jr. I think the question marks on the bench here are, how are you going to, or where are you going to line specific guys up at? One thing that I think a lot of people did not like last season upon the acquisition of DeAndre Hunter was the amount of minutes that he actually suited up at power forward. I was one of those people. I always felt that, hey, this dude looks like the starting small forward of the future. Why are we playing him so many minutes at power forward? And to that point, DeAndre Hunter played 71% of his minutes upon joining the Cleveland Cavaliers at the 4. A lot of that obviously was off the bench. DeAndre did make a couple of starts, but this puts him right back in that spot, right? This puts him right back in that spot to play more power forward than anything, because this is also assuming that Larry Nance Jr., who is capable enough from a versatility standpoint to play the four, still even at this point in his career, but this is assuming that Larry is going to play the five. He's going to be your full-time backup five. So this puts a lot of onus on DeAndre Hunter to play the four, which I don't love if you're giving him a good amount of minutes coming off the bench. I mean, you can stagger the minutes here so that DeAndre is playing a good amount of minutes at the three alongside Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley or Dean Wade or whoever else. But I don't necessarily love this one just because of the fact that it forces DeAndre Hunter into that power forward position off the bench. And then Max Strus and Sam Merrill, that's a good combo together because of what they give you from an off ball shot making standpoint, alongside Craig Porter Jr., who it's probably his best quality offensively is getting the ball to specific players. He is a pretty good drive and kick guy himself. Number 10, we have Craig Porter Jr., Donovan Mitchell, Dean Wade, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen as your starters. This right here is tough because Craig has not proven to be a dependable enough shot maker and creator to justify playing in a lineup like this. This really only gives you Donovan Mitchell and Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley as your lone like true creators out there. You are expecting Craig Porter Jr. and Dean Wade to give you something offensively in an off-ball capacity. Both of those guys would have to be able to pull a trigger because Jarrett Allen is not a floor spacer at this point in his career. And Evan Mobley, though he is coming off a career season, the volume would not be enough to make up for having, 2.5 to 3 non-viable floor spacers on the floor. Craig, he did improve from a percentage standpoint from deep, but last year you have to take into consideration volume before you look at that percentage and truly assume that he improved. He did shoot 43.8% from three-point distance last year, but again, the volume, less than a three-point attempt per game, 0.9 to that point. So this really puts a lot on Evan and Donovan from a scoring standpoint. I don't love that. The bench here, Lonzo Ball, Sam Merrill, Max Strus, DeAndre Hunter, Larry Nance Jr., as always. Time will tell how Kenny Atkinson would feel about something like that, but I can definitely see lineups like this being the case. Rotation number 11, Donovan Mitchell. This is where we kind of get funky here. Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Tyson, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, Lonzo Ball, Sam Merrill, Max Strus, Dean Wade, Larry Nance Jr. as your first 10 players to get into the game. Obviously, this one is taking a huge leap here with Jalen Tyson not only being inserted into the rotation, but being inserted into the starting lineup. Listen, I am of the belief that Jalen Tyson should be competing for minutes in the rotation. But considering the amount of talent on the roster, Jalen Tyson being a rotational regular is by no means a given. It's just not as much as I want it to be. So this gives you a good amount of ball handling out there. That's something that Jalen Tyson, as you saw during Summer League action, has tried to work on. Not necessarily a true point guard, but we have seen him have big games as a facilitator. He did finish with 12 assists in one of these Summer League games, but the biggest thing that we saw opposite that was turnovers. So this, while it's still a work in progress for him, it still does give the Cavaliers and Kenny Atkinson a dependable enough ball handler opposite Donovan Mitchell, whilst also giving you size out there. Jalen Tyson is listed around 6'5", 6'6". So this could make some sense if you're willing to try something crazy in the early going. And we know that Kenny Atkinson is probably going to be experimenting with some of these lineups just to see what he has and some of this young talent. And be a good way to find out because you have a good backline of defense in Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. You have the scoring acumen of DeAndre Hunter, opposite Jalen Tyson and Donovan Mitchell out there. If that kind of gives you an ace in the hole in case Jalen Tyson isn't quite working out as an off-ball scoring option here, because this puts the ball directly in Donovan Mitchell's hands as the point guard, at least to begin games. So we'll have to see what that would look like. But off your bench here, you have Lonzo Ball, Sam Merrill, Max Strus, Dean Wade, Larry Nance Jr. There is one omission here, one name that is missing, and it should be quite obvious. It's Craig Porter Jr. If you are inserting Jalen Tyson into your lineup, whether that be as a rotational, reserve or as a starter, you're going to have to pull somebody, and that really would probably boil down to Sam Merrill or Craig Porter Jr. Because Lonzo, after what you traded to acquire him and the belief that you've put in him, he is going to play. Max Strus is going to play. Larry Nance Jr. is going to play. Dean Wade, considering the role here, he's probably going to play. So that is sort of the problem that you're looking at here. But yeah, Craig Porter Jr. would not be in the lineup in the event that Jalen Tyson plays. And this is assuming that Darius Garland doesn't play. So it becomes even more complicated once he comes back. And let's look at the final option that I have here. Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Tyson, Max Strus, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen as your starters. Again, good level of size in your backcourt between Donovan and Jalen Tyson. You have Max, good off-ball shot maker, good connective tissue out there and doing what he has always done, having that good chemistry alongside Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, especially in terms of that DHO pick and roll action out there. Some drive and kick to his game as well out to the perimeter. So this is a good balance right here in terms of size and defense and rebounding, because Max is not a bad rebounder. Jalen Tyson is a pretty damn good rebounder considering his size. And Allen and Mobley are pretty good on the glass as well. On the bench here, Lonzo Ball, Sam Merrill, DeAndre Hunter, Dean Wade, Larry Nance Jr. As always, you have the off ball shot making from Sam Merrill, the playmaking, defense, rebounding from Lonzo Ball. He's a decent shooter himself. You have the scoring output from DeAndre Hunter, and then Dean and Larry to clean up on defense, off ball shot making, and on the glass. So those are 12 lineups. I see a lot of people in the chat asking about Tyrese Proctor. Guys, this is the thing in regards to Tyrese Proctor. Assuming that Darius Garland misses time, that does open the gateway here for a number of players, including Jalen Tyson, including Craig Porter Jr. But I think that in terms of the pecking order here, Tyrese Proctor begins the season on the outside looking in. It's going to be heavily dependent upon game flow. It's going to be heavily dependent upon how players like Max Strus and Sam Merrill and Craig Porter Jr. to a latter extent, Lonzo Ball considering the health. But if those guys are all healthy and they're all playing well, you can kiss the chances of Tyrese Proctor getting in the rotation goodbye, at least in year one for most of the season. He will play. Don't get it twisted. He will play, but it's going to likely be more so sporadic. And that's why I kind of hesitated to put Jalen Tyson in a lot of these. That's why I didn't put Nae'Qwan Tomlin in any of them, because I'm trying to be realistic. I just do not feel as if he is going to be a day one rotational player, considering that there are a lot of mouths to feed ahead of him and that, he is still on a two-way deal. Could they standardize him midway through the season after that 50 game or prior to that 50 game limit, or before the season starts? Yes, they could do all of these things and then some. But I think that from a realistic standpoint, and I do understand, I'm a big proponent of this, reality is all about perception. It really is, to me, most realistic for Tyrese Proctor, Jalen Tyson, Nae'Qwan Tomlin. Is probably most realistic to assume that they will not be a part of the everyday rotation at the start of the season, even with Darius Garland being out. But who knows? Kenny Atkinson could surprise us all, certainly. And again, I want these guys to play, especially Nae'Qwan, but I just don't believe that'll be the case in the early going. But I did this because there are a lot of different options that Kenny Atkinson has on the table for him, past just Lonzo Ball. I know a lot of people are in love with the fact, including myself. Listen, y'all know, I called that. I would love for Lonzo Ball to play a heavy role here, but I am not necessarily going to think that you have to start him just because he is available. If the options are all on the table, you have a lot to choose from, number one. And if the name of the game is keeping him upright, I'm not sure I want him starting at least to begin the season. But again, with Lonzo's injury history, it really doesn't matter if you're starting him or if you're bringing him off the bench. He could get hurt just like that. It's always going to be a question mark until he changes the narrative, and some of that is out of his control. That's just his body. But I really, really love the fact that the roster is a lot more versatile than it once was. We'll just have to see. Let's hop into the chat here. Nick says, no, he's too damn injury prone. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? The narrative, if you're going to start Lonzo, he has to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he can remain upright before you would feel confident in him not being a liability to be injured as soon as he takes the floor. But we'll see. Nudge Unscripted says, I like CPJ starting or Hunter. However, we don't know if Strus will be moved to the bench or not. We got to let it. We got a lot to play with for real, for real. We do have a lot. We have a lot to play for, or rather, a lot to kind of play around with in terms of lineup configurations. Kenny Atkins has a lot of different options at his disposal, so we'll have to see. Chris Bruce says, need a secondary ball handler in the starting lineup so Mitchell doesn't get worn out. And that is why you can go with Craig Porter Jr. or Lonzo Ball, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way because Sam Merrill and Max Strus have both shown to be quality connective facilitators out there. Max is actually shown to be a quality facilitator given actual opportunities. As also probably have to go Lonzo, Mitchell, Hunter, Mobley Allen. That seems likely, but we'll see. You have Beyond the Lens TV saying, I only like CBJ starting if Hunter is starting over Strus. I love Lonzo starting, though. I can certainly understand your point of view in regard to that. Craig Porter Jr. has a lot of question marks on him for different reasons that Lonzo Ball does. Lonzo, it seems like it's all health related. With CPJ, it's like, can this guy actually be an everyday, not just an everyday rotation player, but can he provide you starting quality minutes out there? Tough. Beyond the Lens TV also says, I'm with you on Tomlin, though. Love him as a sub for Hunter. Yeah, I mean, I think that he is a perfect replacement for Dean Wade, who, again, is on an expiring deal in 2025-26. So I fully expect Dean Wade to either not be re-signed the following offseason or to be moved mid-season to take advantage of that. But who knows what Kobe O and Mike Gansey and company in that front office will do. Time will tell. HJ17 Gaming says, start Hunter since the Cavs got Larry Nance now. I'm assuming that's in regard to another question in the chat. But yeah, I would love to see DeAndre Hunter get that starting role. Gabriel Carmona says Dean Wade downfall. Yeah, certainly could be. Don Thomas says Norchan is way better than Larry Nance. Slow your roll. Slow your roll. Listen, I absolutely love Norchad Omir's potential to get the 2A or be brought to the team in some capacity via the Cleveland Charge. But hey, this is Larry Nance Jr. we're talking about. Nah, that's crazy. Braille Dutra says better one is Lonzo, Mitchell, Hunter, Mobley, Allen. Yeah, I think that listed that here a couple of times. Don Thomas also says Proctor question mark. Again, I just do not believe that Tyrese Proctor will begin this season as an everyday rotational member. I just think that there are too many players ahead of him. Could he? Yeah. Could he play sporadically? Of course. But do I think that Kenny Atkinson relies upon him to count him as a member of the rotation from day one? I do not. Even with Darius Garland being out. RJ Spiller 2019 says, I'll go with the second option. Ball is a 6'5" point guard who will solve Cleveland's backcourt problem. And this is why I love Lonzo Ball, like the versatility that he gives you in the size. Very, very solid playmaker, very, very solid defender, still a solid off-ball shot maker, and a damn good rebounder for his size. I think those are all good things to bring to the table. The question will always be about health with him. John Batia says Proctor is signed, not a two-way. I thought. I think I understand what you're trying to say here. Yeah, Proctor he's on a multi-year contract. He's not on a two-way. My point being that even though he's on that 4-year deal, just because he signed doesn't mean he's going to play immediately. That's what I'm saying. Brooklyn Knicks fan says Cleveland never winning another ring without LeBron. I mean, listen, if you're a fan of a team, and this is my true and honest opinion, I know you're in here to talk shit, but here's the thing. if you weren't alive the last time your franchise won a ring, and this goes for any sports, I don't think you should be able to say shit about it. Nah, I'm sure, unless you're in your like 60s, 50s, and 60s, you know damn well you ain't seen your franchise win a ring either. So I don't want to hear about it. Gabriel Carmona says, yeah, 4-year sign. That's in regards to Tyrese Proctor. Yeah. HJ17 Game says, why is there Knicks fan talking shit like his team hasn't won anything since the 70s? That's where I'm at. Right. If you weren't alive the last time your franchise won a ring, just shut the hell up. There's nothing to talk about. You weren't alive the last time then the Knicks actually won a title. So even if LeBron, even if the Cavaliers never see another ring in my lifetime, at least I know that I got to see my team win a ring. The tribe of Judah says the Knicks ain't won shit. You just sunned him. Listen, that's how I feel. And I see this. It's not just the Knicks guy. I'm just picking on him right now. There's no hard feelings, but I see this all the time in debates about like teams. Like my best friend is a Patriots fan. I don't know if you guys know any Patriots fans, but as a Philadelphia Eagles fan myself, you know how many years I heard from my best friend that oh, we got all these rings, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, all that. I heard that for years, even after Philly won its first ring, against Brady and Belichick back in 2018. I heard that. And even after we got that, he was like, "Oh, so that's your first ring." And you hear it from you Pittsburgh Steelers fans all the time. You hear it from all across all spectrums, right? But my point is, if you weren't alive the last time that your franchise won a ring, I wouldn't even bring it up. It just doesn't make sense. Cowboy fans, yeah, you see that from Cowboys too. But you see this all the time. I don't know. That's where I'm at though with the rotation. You'll have to kind of see how Kenny Atkinson chooses to play things out because again, there's just so many different options. This team suddenly has a lot more versatility, even with the marginal moves that it made this offseason. There are still a lot of different options that he can roll with in the starting lineup and in the rotation in particular. I will be heavily surprised if players like Jalen Tyson, if Tyrese Proctor, if Nae'Qwan Tomlin, if they're a part of the rotation in the early going. But it would be although it would be surprising, it would be something. It would be a pleasant surprise. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But that's probably a good stopping point for today. As I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out to me, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you'd like to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot, send a review to itscavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you said invite. If you want to support the pod in a small but helpful way, consider becoming a member over on Patreon or on YouTube. You can do so for as little as $1 a month. That'll get you access to things like the Discord chat, early content before it's released, at least a day before that, and a couple of other benefits and perks that I'm working on as well. That said, go Cavs.